Hello, welcome back this week to episode 3 of Being a Woman. And last week you got to hear my journey. So this week we're actually going to get to hear Toni's journey of her life all about being a woman. Toni, take it that way.
Hi, welcome back. So, I've been writing some things down. There is a lot I want to speak about. Some things I'm going to talk about in a whole nother episode because it's just so much information that we can share and dive into. So I'm just trying to gonna keep it as simple as possible. So my journey of being a woman, starting as a child, I was very shy. I used to hide behind my mother's skirts. I was also really creative and I was really intuitive. So I was really good with colors and I was really good with picking up on other people's feelings and sensing the energy of a room, right? Which is what we call empathic or intuitive abilities. So it's very like that natural girl stuff, I like to call it. It really is like a natural thing that women have, right?
Absolutely. I think we all have that. And I think it comes from eventually becoming a mother. We need to be that little bit more intuitive, being able to hear our babies cry before they cry,
Yeah,
know when they're sick. So it's that nurturing part of us. It's part of our makeup, I think, as women.
yeah, absolutely. So I was born into a family with a mum and dad, and we're Catholic, and they ran their own business, a little bit of a background. And I had an older brother. And then I had like two more siblings come along after that, a sister and a younger brother as well. But I really remember my older brother the most, and we really used to get into it when we were young, right? And I think this is where like it was a really big um childhood of being at odds with my brother, and we used to fight a lot, right? And it made me realize the huge difference between being a boy and being a girl. There was also huge personality differences, right? But for me, when I was young, it was like, he's a boy, he gets to do this and he gets that, and I don't get that. It must be because I was a girl. Right. And so that is the story that I have told myself growing up, that it was because I was a woman or a girl, that things were different for me. So, hmm,
Such a different storyline too. I'm just thinking as you're talking, and there was you and your brother, and then there was another couple of siblings. But like just talking into the beginning when you said that you were shy and intuitive, we're very similar in that way. But yet I came from the single household, just me, no siblings. To you've got a whole different ball game there because you've got a more masculine and more female with your sister as well. So even though we both sort of started off as very similar people, the dynamics of the family start to change and mold us as we move through into
so
our
true.
womanhood.
Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. The environment where we are, I love that family
exactly.
dynamics. Um, And, I had a really strong mother, which was amazing. She was, so supportive and nurturing, but so fierce, as well. And I had a really gentle and loving father. He was a real gentleman. So that in itself is a whole different experience, the masculine to my brother, who was more like, gregarious and active. Very different experiences of the masculine. So we're talking about the woman. Bring it back, Toni.
But they're quite good um, parts to recall because, like you said, your father being the gentle. So that's what you see coming from the older nurturing to the brothers, like just probably going to punch it in the arm. There's two different levels of the masculine within the feminine.
yeah, yeah, that's right. And so all right, growing up, there was that like realizing the differences and trying to find my place in the world. And then going into high school, I really came into myself and my power. I really embraced being a woman, and I loved having like all of my female friendships. We just were so close in high school. We really rallied like for each other. Um, and had really close bonds, which was, that community spirit and that support was so important to me. And my friendships just meant the world to me. And if anything, it's making me emotional. And if anything, like, happened between us, we would like get together and we'd sort it out. So it's just this beautiful camaraderie of being in high school. And we were at an all girls high school as well, a Catholic high school, brought up in a Catholic household, going to church every Sunday, a whole nother story on that, people. um, but yeah, I loved being with my friends. It was the best. And then going through puberty, so going into that next phase from being the maiden who was, very shy, and we're moving into this puberty phase and growing up into being a woman. And it was really empowering for me. And we're in this age of women's liberation and sexuality, and I really embraced all of that.
You really could embrace that, just thinking about that, being in a full girls' school with no, did you have male teachers or was it all female?
Yeah, we have male teachers, yeah.
So you had these little spurts of masculine within that space, but you've got all these girls with you. So, you've got your little pack that, is so tight, but then you've got all of these extras, around you, which is quite interesting because most people would say, we've got a whole school of girls. The meltdowns, the tantrums, as we do, especially going through puberty, we're all finding our way. But to have that in that kind of group scenario of everybody's doing the same thing, it would be a very different dynamic where I came from the boys and girls. So, it was very different. You didn't necessarily get to have that closeness in a school.
Yeah, I felt really safe and supported in being in that school system, although at the time, I rallied against it as well, and I became a bit of a rebel. I think I was a natural feminist and I didn't even really know what that meant. Just from having to, I suppose, rallying against like my brother and fighting for my freedom in the household. And I think that was just that natural expression of, equal rights, and things weren't fair. And I would just rally against that. So I became a bit of a rebel in high school, and I still have that rebellious nature now. Like, and I don't know, that's like a huge pattern for me, of like control and wanting my freedom, right? Because I really did. I just wanted my freedom and I wanted equal rights, and things seemed unfair, and it just made me so angry. And I would fight for that. So I had this really big passion that I express through my creativity. So my creative writing, through the arts, which I fell in love with, especially photography, and creative writing. So those two things that you would know about me if you follow my social media, you would know that, I really am passionate about those things. What else? And my spirituality, even though I rebelled against Catholicism, and the system of patriarchy that it is, I really embraced my spirituality and like wanted to connect deeply with my soul, because I was just so curious and fascinated with the spiritual journey, even as a teenager. And my religion teacher, actually, Mrs. Jarrett, she introduced us to meditation at retreats that she would run for us. And I just loved it. I was just like, oh my God, what is this? Like blissful, amazing experience where we can go into our our soul and journey, like out of our body. It was just, I just loved it. Okay, I feel like I'm going off track again.
It's okay. So we're really, like you've said, you're coming into high school and all that beautiful energy that you were surrounded with in the feminine, which is really good. So then as you're starting to move into that, I suppose just after school, when you're in that
Yep.
sort of late teens, but you're not really into the adulthood yet. You're still just out of school fresh. And like, where did your life sort of take you on that challenge in being a woman? Because that's when we're really just finding ourselves. And because you went to a school with no males either, you start to meet males in that next phase.
Yes, thank you for that prompt.
All right.
I absolutely, this played a huge part. It's like those years in my later teens when I left school and I left that structure and support
Mm.
of the school system, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I knew I was creative, and it would probably go that way, but I just had no idea. Anyway, I left school. I started working at Pizza Hut. I moved out with my first love, like my boyfriend, who ultimately broke my heart by cheating on me. But so that I felt like the next 5 years were just really big in being in relationship with men and like finding the different men and how that played out for me and what I was looking for, like you're talking about that journey of the lighthouse and like what is your life focused on, what kind of man are you going to choose, and there was a whole range of different men, not that many, a long-term relationships.
And because you had the father figure in your life, and I didn't have the father figure, and I think even when we're that young, we don't sort of consciously understand yet that the man that you grew up with as being the father figure that was so gentle and nurturing with you, that's what we're really looking for. But we don't realize that at first because also in this world, the bad boys bring attention and they're what we sort of, our radar or our lighthouse goes bing, bing, bing. Oh, this looks fun. What's this like?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. And I had this really, I call it stupid motto. Like now when I was young, it was like, just do what makes you feel good. It's so funny. And I really like, at the time I was so into it. It was ridiculous. And then as I got older, I was like, oh my God, Tony, that was so dumb. I can't even believe that you used to say that.
But I sort of like that because what would like say it again?
That's something like do what makes you feel good.
Yeah, and in reality now, when we're talking about menopause and that, it's like, do what makes you feel good.
That's right.
There's no rules anymore.
Full
It
circle.
absolutely has.
Yeah.
And I think it's something to realize that in those early adult years, I suppose the late teens, early adult years, that is that experimental phase. That is that time when you are out there trying things, finding yourself, feeling into what does feel good because there's no point in getting into something that doesn't feel good, So
True.
I think it's actually quite a good little mantra that you had for yourself at the time. Absolutely.
Yeah, so yeah, there was lots of interesting relationships, and we can like talk into that stuff in a different episode. But there was some like beautiful things, and there was some really harsh lessons there, especially around like physical and verbal abuse, which like I said, we can go into in a different episode. And finding out what works for you and what is for you and what's not for you. I think those early adult years are so important, and discovering who you are and what you stand for and what your values are and your beliefs are. And who are you going to choose to be? Like that's really that big driving force in those early years. And and then I went to university and loved it. Went to TAFE, so I studied photography and visual arts. And then I also studied some shiatsu and traditional Chinese medicine after that. they're like the best years of my life, just feeling so free and doing what I love, right? Doing what makes me feel good, like photography, the visual art, creative writing, and then moving into the natural therapies like the shiatsu and the Reiki, and yeah, the traditional Chinese medicine. I'm learning all about that mind-body connection and taking and that whole journey of being creative and going through university just allowed me to explore myself. And I think that's what's so great about those years as well, when you get to choose your focus and what you love, and what makes you feel good.
Yes.
It's, what was I saying? Developing or discovering who you are and what lights you up and what drives you, and what's going to fulfill you as an adult, moving into the workforce, which was the next big phase of moving into the workforce after all those years of study, and partying. So yeah, moving into the workforce, I went straight into a council job. I was working in the arts, which was amazing. It was great to get that experience of being in corporate world, but also not, it's like government work, right? So it doesn't have that salesy stuff that corporate world has. It was really nice to be held in that space and be in the arts and see what, the government and our society has for us in the arts. But it also led me to feel really stressed out at a certain point. So I ended up leaving that job. And what did I do then? Talking about my journey of being a woman, trying to remember what I was.
So in that space there, really, like you said, you've come out of the teenagehood. So you've coming out of the maiden, and you're sort of coming into that mother, getting ready almost to come into that mothering space. So where did your journey take you in that space?
Okay. So yes, after that, I had the two passions. So I had natural therapies, and that spiritual side, like the Reiki and the meditation, which I was really devoting a lot of time to. And then I also had the creative side of me. So it was like I could choose either path at that point. And I ended up meeting and getting together with my hubby, Kim, who we'd met at art school previously. And we got together and we decided to start our own photography business and we're shooting weddings. And that was like a whole, huge part of my life, which, he's still doing that today. But it was just so beautiful. Like, weddings are just beautiful, right? This beautiful blend during wedding photography of like being creative and, looking at beautiful pictures, and then the beautiful side of two people getting together because they love each other and they're committing to each other. And it's all about love and beauty. And it was just a beautiful industry to be a part of.
It was so much the masculine and the feminine in some ways, because like you said, you're creating, and then you've got to edit photos and things, which would be the masculine side of the doing as well, to then create this beautiful booklet or video of that you were going to then give that couple. So how interesting that you're with your husband now, but at the time you were with this beautiful person, but you were creating this space of that yin and yang together in this balance in someone else's beautiful circle of love.
Yeah, so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's right. And just we were just really passionate about it. I was so passionate about it. And it was that, doing what feels good.
Yeah. See, that's a lifelong one. I think we should stick to that.
What lights you up is like what you're passionate about is going to drive you, and it's going to give you that energy to take action and to move forward with your life. So we did that I did that. And then for about 10 years. And then we got married and I had my first child at 32. And that was a game changer.
You are now in motherhood.
Motherhood is a whole different ball game, right? The responsibility, the body, the changes, the workload, changes, your purpose changes. And having to like, I felt like I was just fumbling my way through every single day in motherhood for a long time. Because no one teaches you. There's no course that you go do on parenting, right? And there should be. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think in Germany there is something they have to do, like I don't know, some parenting thing that they have to do before they have children. It just rings a bell, like from some conversation.
I think these little snippets of, parenting and stuff like this. And I recall that there's a commercial that comes on TV and it's like got this boppy tune. It's like, read to your child, read. It's like, you're being told to read to your child. But for us, it seems quite logical to just read a book to a child. But it's like, that's about as much as you're going to get out there. I think these little snippets of when you're in high school, it's like, here's a doll, look after it, and then make sure that it doesn't die, because I think it's on the timing thing or something. But not that we had that at
No,
school.
we didn't know that.
We just said, here's the baby, look after it. But I think like you said, it is a real challenge to become a mother, because no, there isn't a guidebook as such. But that's also, I think, because like everything, everybody does things differently. It's such a unique experience. But that first child that you hold in your arms is one of the most unique, scary things you'll ever do. And then after that, you're all good. That first one that you want to just, like a plant, you just got to keep it alive.
Yeah. So skip back to like being pregnant for a moment. Because I was such a passionate, empowered young woman, being pregnant for me was something that came really easily, and I was still sick and stuff in the first trimester, but for the rest of it, it was just so beautiful and so empowering and such an amazing, magical experience. Like one of the best times of my life. I honestly just felt like a goddess, and that's literally what we are.
I'm just laughing because I'm going to say, oh, we're going to do another episode and it's just going to be called Pregnancy and Giving Birth, because your experience of being a goddess was not my experience.
Yeah, I know that for a lot of women. And there's so much in that story on a medical system and, so much in that taking away of women's rights in childbirth. But anyway, yes, another episode. I felt very empowered. I loved it. It was amazing. My mantra for giving birth was like, your body is made for this. Your body is made for this.
I just love how you have all these mantras. I think I wish I'd had these mantras when I was going through this phase, but you were awakened so early compared to me. I didn't awaken till like my kids were 12. I was in the coma. So there was no mantras. The mantra was just get in and get it done. But I love this. I love this in this story for you, that this, I mean, I'm even just feeling so zen listening to you with all this. And this was my mantra. And this, I'm like, oh my God, that's so good. And it's so logical, really. But it's also so feminine, which is beautiful.
Well, I love your idea of getting it and getting it done, right? That does not occur to me.
Oh no.
So, oh yeah, speaking about pregnancy and childbirth was amazing, like the most amazing, empowering experience. And then yeah, being a mother, woof, it just rocked my boat. Right? I really struggled in the early motherhood phase of the lack of sleep, like I had support, but it still felt strange. The whole experience was strange. And because I'd never really held a baby, I don't think I didn't know what I was doing. So I had no idea what I was doing. And I remember having a conversation with my dad one day saying, I'm sitting there probably breastfeeding my child to see your visual image. What is the point of educating women, to use our minds, if we're just going to sit here to like be milked? That's what I was thinking.
Well, that's an interesting perception in that moment.
And my dad, who was very intelligent and wise, was like, no, no, darling, like, you can't think like that. Um, but in that moment, that's what I really felt like. I felt like a cow, like my sole purpose on this earth is to hold this baby and to, like, feed this baby. And I lost myself. I really had lost myself. And my passion didn't exist anymore. I wasn't allowed to do the things that I loved to do anymore. There was no time for me anymore. And so in those early years of motherhood, I know a lot of you understand that experience, right? That we lose ourselves. And then as they get older and they go to school, and this can drag out as you have multiple children at different ages, that we find a bit of time for ourselves again and learn who we are again in this new phase of being a mother, and learn how to nourish ourselves and support ourselves and find the things that bring us comfort and joy and pleasure and passion again like it's like a whole nother person.
Yes. It's that next phase again. It's that motherhood, that maiden of finding who we are as such. And then once you just get to know who you are, you have to put it on hold to then become the mother and what all the mothering brings, to then put you on hold until you get to the wise woman section again. And then you get to again introduce yourself to, who am I now? Yeah. And when we sort of say it like that, it's quite interesting that we actually get this opportunity to have different lives. We don't have to be the same person from the minute all the way to the end. We get to upgrade ourselves all the time and become different versions of ourselves, which I suppose people do in general, and you can see that with all the masks that people wear. But, when we're coming from that deep knowing, we get to live different versions of us without the masks, which is such a beautiful blessing if we can allow ourselves that space.
Yeah, to go in, reconnect, and find out like who we are again without this thing. Because in that phase of motherhood, I really had to step back from my business and my passion and let it go. And I remember from last week, Sonia, you saying that letting go was the hardest thing. And that really was like letting go of that old version of myself as the businesswoman, the entrepreneur. Like, I had to let go of that. And that was really, really hard. And it was those, I guess you could call it power, like those feelings of empowerment and reward that working life gives you as opposed to motherhood. What are what is the energy, the power, right? And the reward that motherhood gives us are two totally different things, right? And so that's where I had to find that again.
And I think one of the biggest things is that in a job, you have instant gratification, but with motherhood, it is definitely a delayed gratification. And it might be a delayed gratification for like 10 or 15 years. Get that gratification. It could be 10 or 15 years, and then one day your child will come to you and go, you know what, Mum? Thanks for everything. You've been great. You go, I've only been waiting 15 years to hear that all the way. And then by that stage, you go, it's all good. I'm okay because you've already gone past the meltdowns and all the stuff that you're struggling and clawing to try and keep a hold of yourself. Where when you're at work, great job today. Great job. You all did a good job today and good job on that project and
Yeah,
stuff.
so it's a lot about validation.
Yes.
And hearing that there's actual words or the written validation of like you are doing a good job.
No one says that.
No one
says that as a mum, do they? No one comes up to go, doing a great job. Look at you go. You've got your house clean, your baby's fed, and you're dressed.
You showered. My house comes last. I don't care about my cleanliness. Yeah, but you're right. Like I say that to my husband and to my friends now, like you're doing such a good job.
Yes.
Like hearing those words of affirmation and like little mantras that we'll hear back over again in our head. Oh, that time that person praised us, like
yes,
so important, right?
Because you would have had that at school in that safe space. Your teachers would have been giving that to you. Your friends would have been giving you that in a form. I mean, they wouldn't have understood necessarily at that age, but by being your friend and wanting you to play with them and doing all that stuff, you were getting that gratification. And as you said, through the journey, as we get older, we get less and less and less of that. And then you become the mother, and all of a sudden, here's another big job, like keep this person alive. And sometimes it's just because I think we all do it. Well, majority of women do it. It's just like, oh, well, that's just what they do. It's just what they do. They don't need to be thanked. They don't need affirmations. They don't need to be given a little lift every now and then. Some people get that, I think, but I think in general, people forget how hard that is for the mum. And you're expected to still do the washing and the cleaning and all of those things and then look after another person as well. And just the emotion that comes with that, I think, is what breaks a lot of women in those spaces where they lose themselves or they get broken or they get depressed and, all those things that can go with having a newborn baby as well.
Yeah, and like really losing that spark, our inner spark, right? If we're not nurturing and nourishing ourselves as mothers and getting the support that we need, there's no energy that's like coming up through us to make us feel good. You keep saying it now.
I love that mantra. At first you said, oh, it's a silly mantra, but stupid. As you're going through the story and you're going through life, I'm like, that is the best mantra ever, is to do what feels good. Do what feels good. Yeah, absolutely.
So where are we at? Motherhood, yes.
And it's interesting for you now because now you have 2 children and you have one of each. So you have the masculine and the feminine with you. But now you're going into that space where you've got your own little maiden.
I do. So my children are 12 and 15. I have a 12-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl. She's growing up. They're growing up. They're moving into that next phase of discovering who they are as a person and who they want to be. And still, it's that push-pull. Like we were talking about that last time of like, that finding that balance in ourselves. Am I nurturing myself enough and looking after myself enough to be able to handle the challenges that come with being a mother and being a parent? Because we really have to look after ourselves and tend to our inner spirit, our inner flame, our energy, so that we can look after the other people. And as a mother, we forget to do that. I don't know how this got lost, but that wisdom of, you need to look after yourself to be able to look after another person.
I actually don't think it got lost. I don't think it existed before. Because as you were saying that, I'm thinking back to the generations. And if we're real and we look back at generations, women in the 60s or even the 50s, they weren't looking after themselves. They were the people pleasers. They were the one doing everything for everyone. And I think sometimes looking at it, it's almost like our generation is the first one in that motherhood to say, oh, I've got to have some time for myself, because I can look at my own mother and know that she's never put herself first. And a lot of those people, friends, parents, women, and that as well, mothers, they weren't doing that either. And if they were probably called selfish. But well, you should be doing this for your, you should do this for your family. You should do this for your husband. You should do this, because you're a mother now. That's what mothers do. So I think in turn, we're the first ones to take back that power and actually say, well, actually, I need some reviving, because I'm not going to survive, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking, my mind went to a tangent as you were speaking about that, about how big a part alcohol has played in the lives of um, families and people using alcohol for relaxation as well, and recreation, of course, and then it turns to addiction. That's a whole nother episode, right? We know that, but yeah, I'm not even going to go there. Luckily, my family did not drink very much, so that was very lucky. So
Yeah, I think like what we were just talking about of the women coming back into their power, because like you said, yes, otherwise there are different things that you can branch off into, which women would have probably done in the past, men and women, but we're just sort of talking into women right now, to be able to handle all of those things. So I think one of the good things to coming out in our era is us being able to say, actually, no, I need some time out. I need an afternoon out. And I think if you look at the women in their 30s now, and you see them, they doing that as well. They're taking that time out for themselves. They're allowing someone else to look after their children, or having great grandma, like having the greatest grandma time, not necessarily great grandma, but having the greatest time with grandma or grandpa and stuff, to be able to let them have that time as well. Because, I think they're starting to understand that they're going to burn out, because women nowadays as mothers are also working.
That's right.
They're not just the homemakers anymore. And there's nothing wrong with either of those spaces, but they're not just doing that anymore. They're working full time.
It's a double whammy.
Absolutely.
It's a double whammy. And this is where that imbalance, the equal rights that we're talking about men and women, which is so great. There's an imbalance there, right? We are being asked to work and pay half the mortgage and also, be a mother at the same time. And I know men are really stepping into that role, which is great and amazing. But there's a lot of pressure on both parents these days, and a lot of pressure on families. And it's getting harder. Well, it has gotten harder, and hopefully there will be some, change in the balance of things moving forward. And that's what we're here for, to help you.
That's right. Shed a little bit of light.
Yeah, shed some light, offer some tools, some guidance to help you find that balance again in your life. Otherwise, we will burn out if we're not nurturing ourselves.
That's right. And remembering these great mantras of just as long as you feel good. If it makes you feel good, all in moderation, of course. But if it's making you feel good, if it's lighting you up, and I think that's the thing is, we talked about the lighthouse. I mean, that was more about scanning and looking, but if we think of ourselves as the lighthouse and shining our light out, how many people nowadays, their light is dim or non-existent as women? We're talking into women, of course, but as the woman, being the woman, so many demands, so many pressures, and a lot of those pressures we're putting on ourselves, so much judgment we're putting on ourselves, and we're dimming our lights. And I think women are one of the most powerful creators in this world. And, it'd be like being at a concert, when people have got their little candle or their little lighter, with all the lights happening. You get this beautiful, beautiful vision. Imagine that when all the women
Yeah.
are lighting, is just lighting the way, really are lighting the way.
And we can all shine our lights. And that's what we are here to help you with as well, to find that light and to let it shine. Right? Because we can't shine, we can't give our love and our energy from an empty cup.
No.
So we need to make sure that we're filling our cup so that it's full and we're giving from overflow rather than giving from an empty cup and draining our cup. All right.
So just thinking as we're moving through the three phases of women. So you're still really just in your motherhood stage. So you've been the maiden and you're the mother, and you're still in the mother. So you're at a different stage to me where I'm now in the wise woman. So what would you say? Because like now, and you've got a beautiful big journey ahead of you, as so have I, but we're moving in these other sort of different lanes at the moment. So me not having any young children at home, having to look after them, but what would you say up until now, up until this point, what would have been your biggest challenges of getting to this point right now?
Definitely patience is huge, and understanding of ourselves as women and men and the differences, because that relationship, those relationships we have play such a huge part in our energy levels and how safe and supported and loved we feel and worthy we feel. So understanding each other is so important, right?
Absolutely.
So important. Oh my gosh.
You can spend a weekend with girls
Yeah.
and fall into that creative, beautiful energy, and then you can go home and then you drop into where
Whacked out of you.
where am I? Where am I? What's happening here? Where's my sacred space? Because it's the doing. It's the doing space. It's the thinking. It's the logical. It's all this. And I just now
stay with the flow.
Yeah, that's right.
Stay in my flow. Yeah. So that, and also having gratitude. It's been a big one for me. And in a lot of my photos, I have my hand like this because I am always seeking that connection with myself, but also with spirit, with God, with source, with the universe, whatever you want to call it. And making myself do this daily gratitude practice, as well as my daily meditation practice and connecting in with myself on that spiritual level. But the gratitude is huge for just being grateful for being alive, for having a body, for having a family, for having this life, for living in this beautiful world. And when we forget to be present in the moment, we forget to be grateful for what we have. So the meditation helps to bring that peace and that stillness so that I can be in the present moment, so that I can be grateful for it and have those beautiful elevated feelings and emotions and thoughts about life, which helps raise my conscious awareness and helps raise my energetic vibration to shine my light into the world
as the beautiful feminine that you are. So would you say that that's your greatest gift? Is that gratitude from all of throughout your life? Would that be your greatest gift? Is knowing and having that gratitude and having the ability to know what to do with that?
I think I haven't always been grateful, and that's what I was saying. It's like it's been a challenge for me. So there's been a lot of times in life where I've been really angry and resentful, and feeling like life is unfair, right? And so that's like the work that we do. It's because we've had our own challenges and we've worked through it, right? And even on those days where I fall into the victim, I'm feeling like this is unfair, and I'm really angry and I'm really resentful. Like, of being aware what it is that we're feeling and thinking, and the circumstance that we find ourselves in, the challenge that we're facing, and being able to find our way through it and work our way through it. And that's some of the tools that we can teach you, and some of those beautiful techniques that we can guide you through to help with that stuff. So I think that has just been my, I don't know.
You know, it's interesting, but listening to you and listening to your story today, and some of it I knew and some of it I didn't know. And it's wonderful to take some of those layers off together. And even though we've known each other for so many years, but to take those layers off just to find that, you know, inner, that other extra inner being. But I think I think if I was to, from my perception, I think your greatest gift is just being you in what you bring. And listening to your story today, I'm thinking about your story and going, wow, 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 because my story, and if you listen to episode 2, my story is so different that we started off the same in a sense of being that quiet, shy, intuitive, but quiet and shy. And you're like, oh, just looking around, seeing where we're at. But then the family dynamics change. And you had this opportunity, in a sense, to follow those dreams, follow those passions, and go with your creativeness. Where for me, being in a single parent home, you know, the moment I finished high school, it was a bit like, get out there and get a job, you know. So I didn't get that opportunity to find that creativeness until much later, once I, you know, much later, and I was finding myself, and probably found a little bit more of that in my late 20s, rather than, you know, you got to set yourself up in a sense to that. And it's just these different pathways, you know. So being able to move into that and have your little mantras throughout, you know, the space is so beautiful to hear that sort of almost that flow in how that all flowed through. So, you know, if you're listening to us right now and you're thinking, oh, you know, you didn't get the opportunities in your life, maybe, or maybe you did get the opportunities, or maybe you're just starting out now and you're the maiden and you're thinking, oh, I don't know where to go in this space. I think one of the biggest things that you can do for yourself, and it doesn't matter where you are, if you're the maiden, the mother, or even you're the wise woman right now, and maybe this is all new to you because you've lived in a totally different space. You haven't been awakened to any of this stuff yet. It's never too late. And I think one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is just go within now. Just go within, listen to what your heart's asking you, listen to the voices that are coming up for you in yourself, and just trust in the process and do what makes you feel good. Because if you're not doing what makes you feel good, then you're almost resisting, and then what you're resisting is going to persist. And you want to be happy, because as we've talked about our journey, and I'm sure you're the same as me, as you're listening, you're going, wow, how quickly time goes. It feels like just yesterday that we were mums, just yesterday when we were having our first love, just yesterday when we were at primary school discovering different things. And yet already here we are, sitting here doing this video with you at this stage of our lives, and it goes really, really quick. So, you know, I think that mantra is really good. Do what makes you feel good and what lights you up. Stop living a life that's dimming your light, that is stopping you from living your best purpose-filled life for yourself, for yourself.
There's a couple of little things that I feel like I've missed. So just I'm gonna quickly go back to actually that journey of motherhood. Like after I had my son, I had a really big another spiritual awakening moment of being pregnant and just feeling into that spiritual energy that's really strong when you're pregnant. And I just felt like this intuitive urge to go back into my healing work. So that's when I stepped back into natural therapies and more Reiki, meditation, hypnosis, NLP. So it really became, this is my purpose. And so that journey into motherhood really helped change me and shape me into what was important for me now, because I felt that I needed to come back into myself and who I was as a human being, as a spiritual being. And that was really important. That journey for me obviously is really important, that spiritual journey. And I want to help other people do that and go there and find that beautiful connection in themselves, just like you were just talking about. And that's what the journey of motherhood changed my purpose, right, to that, because it was something that was more important to me than photography. And that's the spiritual journey.
You could take photos of your babies.
Absolutely. Beautiful photos. So yes, just wanted to mention that. And then also I am like hitting, I am 48. I was like going to say, do I say my age? Yes, I'm going to say my age. So moving into my 40s, I am still a mother, and I'm right in the middle of motherhood, right? Because we've all started having babies later in life. Okay, so I had my first baby at 32, my second baby at 35, which my mum is like, that's so late, you know, like they were having babies in their early 20s. And so now I'm in my late 40s, and for the last 6 years, I have been having, my body is changing, and I've been having perimenopausal symptoms. And that journey has been difficult as the body changes. And the doctors have not been much help at all, I just want to say. So obviously my whole life I've had a bit of a thing with the medical system, although I love the general idea of it. I definitely think it's missing the body, mind, spirit connection part, which is where we come in. Okay, so yeah, and there's so much, like a whole, you know, so much to talk about in that perimenopausal, menopausal journey, moving into the wise woman phase as the body changes, and how we navigate those changes, both externally and internally, as we change and grow into this next phase of our lives, while still being right in the motherhood phase.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. And so we've been really excited to be able to tell you about our stories and how being a woman has affected us up until this point. And moving forward into the next couple of episodes, we're actually going to be interviewing some other women who are also mothers and successful business women, and also some other women that may have been, it might not be mothers, but they're definitely women and are going through phases in their lives as well. So the podcast that we're creating is about being a woman. It doesn't mean you have to be a mum, but you would have been through, you're still going through that phase in your body, in a sense. Even if you choose not to have children, your body gets ready to be a mum. So you're still going to go through the menopause, the puberty, then the perimenopause, and then the menopause. So you're still going to go through all those phases. So even if you're a mum out there, if you're not a mum out there and you're listening to us, please don't feel like you're on the outer, because it's all about being a woman and the journey and where that takes us.
Every journey is different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're looking forward to joining you again next week, where we'll have a surprise visitor.
Is that it? Are we done? Yeah.
That's it. Thank you. Welcome. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful day.